What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Stick Talk, episode 13. I wanted to skip over 13 like all the elevators in skyscrapers, but I guess we're doing 13. So welcome back to the show. Today we have on the man, the myth, the legend, Logan. How's it going, brother?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
We had a bit of a mix-up last week where we tried to film this, but there was a band playing and the audio would have been trashed. So we had to reschedule. Logan was pretty flexible. Appreciate you making the time for us again this week. So the way we usually kick it off is just you want to give a brief background on who you are, what you do, what you're currently up to, so the audience can get a good intro on you.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of started out as a copywriter back in the day, and it was about like 2.5 years ago, and I used to write copy for people's landing pages. And their landing pages were just so bad that I was like, okay, well, I can make better landing pages than that. So I started making landing pages, kind of got into funnels, email marketing from there. So I kind of do all that stuff for clients in mainly the info product space, but I post about a lot of different stuff on Twitter. So I get a bunch of different people from a bunch of different industries that I can do work for, and it's been kind of interesting. Like, even one of my biggest clients actually was a native flute teacher. Like, he taught people how to play the Native American flute, and which is like such a niche thing, but he was like the only coach with any kind of like marketing or info products around it. So he made like $30K a month just from teaching people how to make play that online, which is like insane to me. So I've kind of always been in that space because I like that kind of stuff, and just overall marketing for info products is kind of like my main thing, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like you came up during like the explosion of ClickFunnels, which is what made like businesses like that very possible, right? So maybe talk about how you like got into online business and entrepreneurship and copywriting even to begin with. Like, how did you come across this industry, and what like was the sticking point for you?
Yeah, so I think all of us kind of just were roaming the internet trying to find some way to make money from like whatever age. So about like 4 years ago, I came across copywriting, and I just saw it on Twitter one time. I was like, oh, that's cool. But then I bought a course for like $180, and at the time that was like, whoa! I'm like, it's a lot of money to spend on like just some random thing online. And yeah, I really was just chasing a way to like do something fun online, to make more money online, to do something. And copywriting seemed to be the thing to do back then, and I mean, it still is now. It's one of the best skills I think you can learn. So I kind of just like ascended through that, and I never really had a plan of what I wanted to do, but that kind of just leads you down a path of like, oh, do this now, do this, and you kind of figure out what people need and just supply that for them, and that's kind of how you can grow a little bit. But yeah.
So you're just super curious, basically, is the approach you took.
Yeah, I would say so, because I mean, I think I've failed a bunch of different things, like even my Twitter account right now, like my username is Lofted Learning, and that was because I had a blog like 3-4 years ago on like, because I wanted to be like a life coach or something. So I would just write posts on like giving people advice on how to gain confidence, like stuff like that. So then I made that Twitter to kind of like promote that, and I should probably change my username, to be honest, but
it's like the meme, like the 20-year-old life coach. It's like, dude, you haven't even lived. What are you going to take?
Dude, I would respond to people on Twitter and be like, well, they've experienced different things, and try to like defend that idea. But yeah, I kind of realized that I wasn't going to make money off of a life coach like blog as like a 20-year-old essentially. But yeah, essentially like just being curious with things. Like, even I think the first way I made money online, not kind of online, I used to jailbreak people's phones in middle school and then just like charge them $20 for it, just because like I would like doing that with my iPod and stuff, and I could do all this fancy stuff. And I would just I'd be like, yo, look at my phone, look, I have like 5 apps in a row, or something stupid like that. I'd be like, yo, how's your background moving, bro? And I was like, well, I can do it for you for $20.
Yeah. Which was a come up back in the day, right?
Yeah, like it was just anything. And then I tried to get people like followers on social media and stuff. So I would go to those sites where you could buy like 20,000 followers for like $10 or something. Yeah. So I tested it out on my friend, and I just sent him like 20,000 followers, and it was just so like, he's like, what's happening to my phone? But it just like, they're all bots and stuff. And back then, like it still kind of worked to an extent. But I was like, this is not like a business that I can make out of this. yeah, so it's kind of just like that, testing different things, failing, and then trying something, and eventually something like sticks after a while.
So I guess how do you go from taking the skill set of copywriting and just having an interest for building funnels and landing pages to turning it into a business that provides for your lifestyle?
Yeah, so honestly, like, I've yet to actually figure out a very specific offer that I want to pursue, like, long term. Because right now, I mean, I haven't done outreach in probably almost a year, just because people have been contacting me on Twitter, and I'm always filled with like stupid little one-off projects or like more involved things where I take a revenue share and just like kind of work inside the company as like their marketing person. So it's kind of just been a progression of figuring out exactly what I can do to really what I can provide people to like the highest level. So if in the beginning it was just a landing page, but then I'd give that to them and they were kind of just stuck. Like it's like, oh, well, how do I run traffic to this page? Like, do I need an upsell? Do I like all this stuff to try to have email automations for people that don't actually sign up? So it kind of just progressed into a thing where I was like, oh, I need to provide more to get better results for people. So that's kind of, and I still do landing page like one-off projects now just because it's like fun, but I don't really make too much money off that. It's really just like where I'm building out funnels for people, maybe like their welcome sequence to kind of get more people interested. And like really giving them a system. And that's kind of what I've realized is the main selling point with a lot of these clients and people is it's not like you're providing them a way for them to make more sales because they're making a decent amount of sales. They're doing whatever. They have a system. It's just not working well. You're kind of like giving them a way to automate things by putting a funnel in their business, connecting all the email automations, and then showing them like a way to promote this kind of stuff to where they're going to grow a lot more and like they can scale easier. They can run ads to these pages. Like they can do a bunch of different things instead of just like posting content and hoping for the best. So I think I kind of realized that people need more of a structure. At least, I mean, obviously there's higher ticket people that know exactly what they're doing and they kind of just need a little change on things. But for the most part, they kind of need some kind of structure to follow because not everyone knows a lot about marketing.
Well, that was kind of like a realization that we had recently too, is like if you just solve the problem that is their landing page, it's only going to create the next problem in their business, which is either traffic. It might show signs that their offer is not optimized and they need to change their offer. It might show that their sales process is unoptimized. They're not closing enough deals. And so I think that's like an opportunity, right, to create an offer that's more valuable and that you can charge higher ticket for is by solving more and more problems in the business as long as you have the experience and you can kind of almost predict it or future solve it. So I guess talk about your recent success because I saw you post, I think it was on Twitter, maybe in Client Ascension, just recently having like your biggest month. Is that, would you say, because you're solving more problems for who you're working with, or what would you contribute that to?
Yeah, so I actually did a breakdown today, because I wasn't really trying to like push this month, and it kind of just came to be. So back when I joined the group, Daniel had kind of pushed me to make a landing page course. And he's like, dude, I don't tell this to many people, but you already have an audience and you don't have a course. Like, that's kind of stupid. Like, make a course or something that you can like provide people. So I made the course, and then when I added some more stuff this month, I like ran a little promotion on it, add some bonuses. Essentially, I kind of realized like a month ago that I have an audience big enough that I can do what I do for my clients for myself now. And I never really like thought about my Twitter as like that kind of medium. So I started doing that stuff more. So I made a decent amount just selling the course. But then like I hadn't taken a client until like last week. Like I hadn't signed any new clients. I wasn't looking to get new clients because I was trying to build out systems so that I can actually scale more on like the one-off projects and stuff like that. So it was more about, and then I tweeted one night and I was just like, hey, I'm looking to create a system for like landing pages and stuff. So anybody that signs up for like a landing page gets like 40% off if they message me like right now. And I got like 10 DMs and I ended up signing 3 of those people. And the one guy actually, like, it's crazy the amount of random people that reach out to you on Twitter. Like some dude with 200 followers the other week, he had like a meme profile picture and I was like, he told me, he's just like, I can get you a lot of clients. And I was like, oh, okay. Any other details on that? And he's like, oh, yeah. I've worked with this and this and this. And this is actually my burner account because my actual account's suspended. And he's he literally works with like, he just did a deal with like Kylie Jenner recently, like he does brand deals for like crazy big people, and has essentially grown people's social media accounts. And he's like, I even have a client in the pipeline, and I'm not allowed to say his name, but I can tell you where he lived. And I was like, okay. He's like, he lived in the White House. And I was like, oh. But it's just like some random dude with 200 followers, like messaged me like that. So it's kind of cool to see the reach you can have. But for me, the growth this month was from the course. I've kind of been doing a couple more programs and stuff, teaching people how to do things. But then the clients, like that one tweet made me like 12K alone just because a bunch of different projects, like even writing emails for people. Then I did like 2 landing pages. So yeah, it really was because I like expanded my horizons and kind of learned how to do more things relating to like my main service, which is landing pages. So I think that's definitely been really helpful in my like progress.
Yeah, and talk about growing on Twitter real quick, because I know when I joined, like you were already one of the OGs on the platform where you already had like 30-something thousand followers. So talk about like how old were you when you joined, and how has Twitter impacted? Obviously, it's impacted your business, but how has Twitter kind of kickstarted your growth as a business owner?
Yeah, so I kind of started when Money Twitter was like 4 or 5 accounts, and I don't even like. Have you guys ever seen like Chris Johnson, that guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So he had like 50,000 followers, and he was like the big guy. I haven't seen him in ages. Like I don't even know what he's doing now.
It's probably retired.
Yeah, honestly, like he was making a decent bit back then. So, because he was like the first person on Twitter to kind of like, in my eyes, like start that space a little bit. So I kind of started then, and at first like I said, it was like for my blog, and then I realized like, okay, this is not gonna like be a long-term thing at all. So I transitioned to like learning the copywriting stuff, and then I just started tweeting about that, and that was actually it was when the pandemic hit, because I went to study abroad. I studied abroad in New Zealand from February 2020, and then pandemic hit, and my school.
Did you get out?
So I was in New Zealand, and I was there for like 4 weeks, and our school emailed us and said, you have 48 hours to book a flight home or you're getting expelled. We were like, what the fuck? Like, we didn't know why it was such like a big deal, because in New Zealand, there hadn't even been any cases yet. And in America, like there was lockdowns, like everything. So we were kind of confused, and obviously I wasn't going to like drop out of school right then and there. So I booked a flight home, and even some of my friends like booked a flight way too far in advance, knowing that they'd have to stay then. So then some people stayed, but when I got home, I was just so bored that I was like, well, I guess I'm going to try like my Twitter account again. So I literally just started tweeting like once a day, and kind of just gained connections through that. And I've kind of grown slowly, considering I've been tweeting for like 2.5 years now, and I've like just under 60K. Like a lot of
Still
people.
pretty damn good.
Well, yeah, but
Say, damn, bro.
most people have like, that have joined the space in the last year have just like flown by me. Like there are people with 100K plus now. Even like Dakota, who's at like what, 150K or something. Like he was new when I was like still at like 10K or something like that. So it's kind of cool, because I always had a higher follower count, so I could make the connections with the cooler people in the space, just because I had the platform. But it wasn't like, I was still learning a bunch. I was still in school. I played college soccer, so like I was really busy with school and doing that I wasn't really doing much with like my.
So how did
stuff.
you pick up copy in college? Because I feel like that's a big topic for us, is like picking up. We started our agency in college. Was it like a Russell Brunson book? Was it an ad? Like, was it a professor? Like, what got you into the actual marketing
Yeah,
world?
it was the Tej Doza's 6-figure promotions course was the one I took, which is pretty popular on Twitter. At least people know about it. But I don't even remember. Like, I think I just stumbled across it, like going through Twitter one time, and I just like, well, let's do it, and I took it. But it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't really like anything specific that I liked about it, because I hated writing, but like writing copy to me versus like writing in school, like an essay or something, is like completely different. And you're not like forced to these specific guidelines and constraints and stuff, which is what I didn't like about school. So, but in school, I don't know. I was kind of just, I don't think I was like bored, because I was still really busy, but it was just like one winter break. I was just like, oh yeah. I had like a month off, and I just found something, and I kind of committed to it. And then after classes, I would kind of just do that for a couple hours. And then so that was like sophomore year when I started. And then junior year, I kind of let off the gas a little bit. And then the pandemic hit. So then senior year, that's kind of when I started getting back into things again, and kind of just exploring funnels and all this stuff. And yeah, it was kind of just like a slippery slope of like, okay, if I know this, now I need to know this, and I need to know this. But it was always just like a curiosity thing. Like, oh my God, people are literally making like millions of dollars doing this exact thing, and I can learn how to do it if I spend like an hour or two a day, like practicing to do it, which is just like crazy to me.
Was that like the main motivation for you, is the fact that you could earn that much money from that small of like a time investment to learning the skill? Like, did you have plans to get a full-time job? Like, what was your outlook on life at that point, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, senior year, I was still pretty committed. I'm an environmental science major. Like, I graduated with an environmental science degree, which like doesn't correlate with marketing like at all. So that year I was pretty much set on like getting an environmental science job and just like doing this stuff on the side because it was fun. And then up until like even April, I was applying for environmental science jobs, and I was graduating in May, and I had an interview and with a company that I like actually liked and would have probably taken the job if I gotten it. And on the interview, as soon as I got on, they're like, "Oh, you're applying for this job?" And I was like, "Oh no, like that's not the job." And she's like, "Oh, well, we have a big company. We kind of get our wires crossed sometimes, so we'll have to reschedule or something." And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I've been preparing for this, and now I just have to go sit around for like 2 more days and wait. So I was kind of like, wait, why am I not? I spend like 5 hours a day after I'm done work and soccer doing this stuff. Like, why am I not just like committing to it full time and actually like believing that I can do this and make this like my full-time thing if I enjoy it so much?
So was it like the fact that they had just basically blown you off and switched you around? You were living on their terms, that you're like, fuck it, I just want to do something myself and have full ownership
like,
over it?
Yeah, kind of. It kind of lit a spark. Like, not, I didn't really like care so much, but it just made me think like they don't really care that much.
Yeah.
And like I'd rather be kind of more in control of what I do. And like even I had always thought about trying to start like my own thing. Like, I did a lot of landscaping growing up, and I'd always wanted to start like my own landscaping business or something like that. So I'd always had the mindset of being my own boss at some point, but I just wasn't sure of like how I was going to get there. So to me, it was about like I was going to go through the corporate ladder of like doing this, and I was going to try and become a boss like in the quickest amount of time possible. But then I was just like, I think at the time I probably only had like 5,000 followers on Twitter, but I was like, well, that's enough for me to like commit to this a little bit more than I'm like giving it time for. Yeah.
So what was the turning point from, being half in, half out on like an environmental job and doing this on the side? Like, what was the moment that you're like, okay, I can go all in on this. I have the money coming in. It's a realistic thing that I can just do it full time. My parents agree with it. Like, was there a client that you signed or like a month that you had that kind of turned the table?
Yeah, I mean, like even my first copywriting client was in like April of 2020, and it was actually a WWE star. I was like cold emailing supplement brands that I found off like Google Ads, and the one dude responded that had a supplement company, and literally like the first $4,000 I ever made was through just writing copy for his product pages and stuff. He doesn't respond to me anymore because, well, that's the client. I was like, dude, you're putting this on the page wrong. Like, this looks absolutely like absurd. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, my guy's not doing it really right, but I'm friends with him, so I can't really fire him. And I was like, well, then I'm just going to do other things. So that was kind of like, that was my first client. So it was like my realization that like, oh, I can actually like do this if I wanted to. But then a year later, when I was still applying to stuff and not thinking about doing it full time, I don't know, like I kind of just thought, I think I had seen enough people through Twitter over that year, like win, make a lot of money, like drop out of college, quit their jobs, like everything like that, that I kind of realized that like I could do this if I really committed to it. And I'm graduating in a month, so I'm literally going to have all my time to doing this. Like, I can live at home. My mom doesn't care if I live at home. And she wasn't really a fan of what I was doing. Yeah. She's like, I want you to get a job. And like my grandparents are like, this isn't smart. Blah, blah, blah. But like, I feel like that's what everybody's grandparents are going to say. But like my parents were a little like skeptical. And even like to justify, I'd be like, well, this guy on Twitter's making this much doing the same thing. And she's like, how do you know he's not lying? And I'm like, I don't know. He's got 10,000 followers. I doubt he's been lying for 2 years. But it was just always like like, oh, I could probably do it. And then that kind of like, as soon as I graduated, I kind of wanted to commit to being like, well, now that I'm done soccer, I'm done school, like I can actually commit a full-time job worth of time to figuring this out, getting clients, and actually doing it. So I wouldn't say there was really a turning point, because it had always been like a struggle to like figure out like, oh yeah, this is actually what I wanted to do. But yeah, it was just always like the fact that this is possible, and like it's not hard to make that beginner salary to like even match a 9-to-5 that I would have probably gone into for like the cheap paying environmental science jobs. Like I could match that in like a year. That's what my thinking was. So to me, it wasn't really too much of a risk. It was just more of like, I needed to keep my mindset strong to like essentially ward off like the other people telling me like, this probably isn't this a good idea.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's like a really good and honest answer. Your journey, what you just described, is probably the most common route that people take, where it's not some like dramatic moment or big turning point. It's kind of just you're doing the work day in and day out, and you're seeing other people who are doing the work that are reaching whatever goal you have in mind. Maybe that's $10K a month because you're stacking it up, that versus whatever environmental science job that you're going to get. And you just start to buy in and believe like, oh, okay, this is really possible. So it sounds like it was just more of a gradual shift instead of you just going all in. I guess one thing that's interesting, like when I had met you in person at our client Ascension event, I saw your face and I was like, oh, it's the landing page guy. So you obviously started off with the life coaching aspect. When did it stick that, hey, like I could be the landing page guy here? Did you have to try anything other than the life coaching? Was that like the second thing? Because it didn't just click in business. It obviously clicked with the branding. Because like first thing I noticed was like, oh, landing page guy. Let me go introduce myself.
Yeah. I kind of started. So after like the life coaching thing, I transitioned. I think I had like copywriting in my header, because that was like the next thing I was learning. And then essentially once I realized like, so I think I started copywriting stuff, talking about that stuff in like May, and then by October I had like 2,000 followers and was the landing page guy. So I had changed over to that. But I was kind of always just changing to figure out like what I could make myself like a name for in the space, but also that I enjoyed doing. So at that time, there were still like 2 landing page guys that were like way above me in followers. And I was always like mentally competing with them, like even checking out their tweets and stuff, being like, okay, what are they doing? What are they doing? And the one dude just dropped off after a while. He was even making like card courses, like on that website builder card. Yeah. So then I was like, well, if he dropped off, then I'm going to make the card courses. So then I kind of tried to become known for that. And then I was like, this isn't like big enough an idea to like make my thing, you know? Like I even thought about starting an Instagram and talking about all this card stuff. I'd reached out to all these people on YouTube that were getting like, because card was decently new back then. So the only posts on YouTube about it were like very specific tutorials, and they all had like 100,000 views. And so I would reach out to them and be like, yo, would you want to sell my course? I could give you an affiliate link, something like that. So I was kind of always, like you said, like gradual, like trying to figure things out. But it was pretty early on that I stuck to landing pages and realized like, okay, if I could beat out the dude with 7,000 followers, like then I'm that guy. And then I kind of just never changed it, even though like my offers and stuff have changed. For the most part, people still come to me for the stuff like surrounding the landing pages, just because it's all like very integrated. But like even my account is still fully based on landing pages, and I've kind of only just started transitioning to like funnels more and stuff like that. But I mean, that's going to come with like dialing in on an offer, like what exactly I want to talk about. But to me, landing pages was just the thing I could get ahead of people in and become known for in the space. So I just decided to like double down on it essentially.
Yeah, and I feel like landing pages is such, in copywriting too, right? There's such like common services and skill sets. And so like for people looking to get into it, it's almost like, how am I going to compete with guys like Logan? Or like you were thinking, you had guys that had more followers than you that were doing landing pages. It's very similar to our come up with like cold email. Like we were obviously not the first people to do cold email, but I feel like the best strategy to take is just to outlast everyone else. Like you don't have to be so much different. You don't have to have like the most unique mechanism. A lot of times if you just outlast the competition, you'll end up winning. And I feel like that's what you did from what it sounds like. Yeah. So I guess one of the things that is always a struggle with just outlasting the competition is like staying innovative and staying like passionate about landing pages, right? Because you do landing pages for so long, it's almost like I'm sick and tired of landing pages, right? Like, how you can only do landing pages for so long and still get entertained. Yeah. So I guess like, how have you been able to, stay innovative and also just keep yourself like passionate about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, with content in general, because that's kind of where I've like taken my business is like focusing on what I'm doing and then kind of talking about that and then going in surrounding topics around that. So I've been trying to figure out ways to make like the whole marketing stuff like more interesting to people. So even today I posted like a marketing challenge of how to frame an idea of selling an ebook to parents that can't get their kid to like sleep a full night. Like their baby is nonstop crying, they've tried everything, stuff like that. Because I think like that stuff's interesting to like think about all the stuff that goes on behind like, oh, like maybe we should take this angle, maybe we should use this headline. And it's interesting to see like the stuff people have to say. Like someone was like, dunk your baby in whiskey or something like that. And I was like, that's a little strong. Like, I don't know. Some people are just crazy on Twitter, but trying to keep it like entertaining on the content side of things has just always been like an evolution of like trying out new things and whatnot. And then through work, I don't know, it's kind of just been the fact that I'm turning into things from like a freelancer to like a business. So it's no longer like, oh, I'm just going to do this and like hope it works well. It's like I need to figure out exactly what's going to make it work every time. This is like where I need to do the research, what I need to write down every time, what I need to answer like question-wise every time and stuff like that. And then kind of just like expanding on the ideas like surrounding landing pages and stuff is always... Because I think the deeper you dive into it, it's like, okay, if this landing page works, what emails could I push to that landing page from their list to kind of get more people in? So then you're thinking of like promotion ideas and stuff like that. And it's almost just like the fun in it is like just testing so many different things that you can kind of see what works and what doesn't. And when something works, it's just like you hit like the lottery or something.
Yeah,
you know?
you get like a high from it.
Exactly.
And I feel like part of it too is just not making landing pages for chiropractors every single time, right? Like you're almost exposing yourself to all these different products, solution markets, types of customers, and that's what almost keeps it entertaining.
Yeah, and it to an extent it's exciting, but it's also like more difficult then because I'm kind of going to so many different industries. Like even some chiropractor actually just reached out to me. It was like, yo, I'm paying this agency however much a month to run ads to my page and to my website. And there's like, it's like, welcome to chiropractic. It's like no one's going to convert from that. Unless I told them like if someone's in a lot of pain, they're going to convert from that. But to like actually convert somebody, you need to like have a very specific offer and talk specifically to them. So like running ads to a website is essentially like useless. But yeah, different clients, and like I said, that native flute coach was a very weird niche, and even that so different demographics is interesting too, because that demographic is like 50 plus. So my landing pages were like very, very simple, and I noticed I would like look at the user recordings to see what people were doing, and there'd just be like I can just like picture an old grandmother just like clicking on the picture a bunch of times to see if it like gets bigger. So I started linking the checkout from the picture. So someone would click on a picture and just go to the checkout. And we just saw an increase in conversion rates just from doing that. Like it was
Smart.
absurd. So it's always been just like the testing aspect, but yeah, like different industries, you kind of have to go look at other people's pages, kind of figure out what other people are doing, and kind of like model your own stuff, but also be able to do the research like surrounding that stuff to make sure you're actually providing like a good end product for the person. But like, yeah, different offers is always so cool because like I signed a client recently and he gives out like swag packages. Like he'll do like the merch for people's companies and stuff so they can give it, oh, like you just onboarded a new person. Here's like a sweatshirt that you can give them and a shirt and stuff like that. So like we're gonna run an offer where he gives out like a free swag pack where it's just like all this basic stuff. You just put in like your brand's logo, and he sends it to you for free. You just have to pay for like shipping. So it's one of those like free plus shipping offers. And I've kind of always wanted to do stuff like that. So it's just cool being able to dive into different offers and specifically like different spaces to see what is really working, so that I can go apply that to everyone else that I'm working with.
Yeah, super interesting. I feel like branching out into different niches is especially hard for like info products and stuff like that, because you have to be educated on all these different specific things. Like you have to write copy that speaks to people that want to learn to play the flute or something like that. Like where do you get the research from to actually write informed copy and design a landing page that'll work?
Yeah, so a lot of times my first step is always interviewing past customers, past people that bought, his audience, like all that kind of stuff, because it's easy, it's free. Like you can just go get direct feedback from the people that bought and be like, yo, why did you buy? And then just like double down on like the idea that pops up the most.
So do you take the exact syntax from customers. Like, I bought because this, I struggled with this helped me with this. Like, I put out a thread the other day that was like, take like your ideal prospect's like exact syntax and plug that into your copy. Like, instead of like more revenue, like turning more likes into restaurant customers for restaurant owners. It's like a really specific piece of copy that one of our client Ascension students got from a client, and we used that in their outreach scripts, and it did really well.
Yeah, I've been definitely like people, and some people will just put like 3 words and be like, yeah, this was great, or like, yeah, I loved it. And then other people will like write their entire life story, like detailing why they bought the course, how it's helped them, how their kid doesn't talk to them, or like random stuff like that. It's like, why are you telling me this? But
that's the one who dunked the baby in whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it is kind of crazy, but a lot of stuff's insightful because it's like, wow, this helped them achieve. Like, they're almost telling you what happened, like all the goals they achieved because of this too. So it's like, oh yeah, I started. Like even the flute people, it's like, oh, I'm more relaxed now. I feel more comfortable in front of other people because I learned to play the flute in front of other people. It's like, what? But it kind of makes you think like, okay, how can I market that on the page? It's like, be confident in front of other people. We kind of took like a spiritual angle through ads one time. It was like, because it is a very like relaxing thing. And like every time I watch his videos, I would just sit there for like a minute and just like enjoy it. So it is like a very relaxing thing. So the problem is you can just go on so many angles all the time. It's kind of just figuring out what works. And a lot of times it is like going after the specific syntax of like exactly what they're saying and just literally putting that on the page because it's going to connect with like a lot more people than you think it will. But then other than that, it's a lot of times just diving into like Reddit forums or like Amazon reviews of like big products. Like even I was looking at like a big company's reviews for like their coaching program because I kind of wanted to model like my coaching program off of them. So I was just looking to see what people were saying, like they enjoyed about it, what they said, like they accomplished this goal, they did this, they did that, because then that's what I'm going to talk about all the time. So I think, and I do think there needs to be a better way to like conduct audience research, like on your specific audience, like a more cut and clear script of like a survey or something to ask people specific questions and ways to draw out like more of that kind of like deeper stuff. And I've kind of developed my own thing, but I'd like to see somebody try and like actually productize that and like create some kind of offer, product, ebook, something around that. Because I think that stuff's like really important.
Yeah. I feel like we used to talk about this a lot. Like if you have to go out and interview your customers, like if you don't know where to find them in the first place, it's probably not a good sign, because how are you going to market to someone you can't reach in the first place? So like I think that's part of it, and to make a productized service that's like able to do that is going to be tough because it's going to be different for who the niche is. What I'm interested in like your thoughts on is like websites and funnels have definitely evolved a lot over the past couple of years, right? Like the whole like everyone has a website that has a bunch of pages, and then Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels came out and was like, websites suck. You only need one page with one button or one CTA kind of deal. So like for business owners out there that are thinking of landing page strategies, obviously knowing your niche and your customers and the pain points that they experience is really important. But what are some like actual funnel structures or frameworks that you see working really well now outside of like the typical landing page and VSL, book a call funnel type of stuff?
Yeah, so I've been actually testing out more, like, obviously I think a big one's like the free lead magnet, like sign up, get this free thing. It's just like a page that's tiny. You put in your email, your first name, and then they send you to an upsell, maybe something like that. I've been testing out more of like tripwire offers. So it's like the $1 to $7 range, because it kind of gets rid of all the freebie seekers. I mean, there's a ton of those on Twitter to begin with. But I was even listening to like the Dan Kennedy Magnetic Marketing podcast the other day. And this one lady who does like Facebook ads for people said that it was actually cheaper to acquire a customer using a tripwire product. So like I think they had like a $5 thing. So it was cheaper to acquire a customer for a $5 thing than it was like a free lead magnet. And I was like, that doesn't really make sense. But it was a very specific, like, and she applied like the same kind of offer to 3 different niches, and it worked every single time. So I've been trying to test more of that. And like, from what I've seen, obviously you're going to get more qualified people that are purchasing that stuff. But for example, like I did it the other day with my like one offer. And so I did like one of those auto DM tweets, and I did it for free at first. And I got like 1,000 replies, whatever. It goes through an opt-in. So 600 people end up actually converting if they go through the whole thing. So then I actually did it I literally just made it the same thing, $1, ran it the next week, and 89 people purchased that thing. Like 250 people replied, 89 actually went through and purchased it.
Oh wow.
So I want to wait a little bit to figure out, like, after a month, who out of those two groups purchased more. So I would think the $1 people are going to purchase more, but does it weigh out the 600 people that are now on my email list that I'm like nurturing and kind of upselling them to other things? So that's still something I'm testing, because like I kind of want to test with my own stuff before I like run it to a client. I'm like, yeah, let's try this.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to test that, but I think it is more valuable at the same time, because even like emails pile up and you're paying more per email you're sending. And a lot of times people put in a fake email or something like that. Like no one's going to put in a fake email for a $1 offer. So I almost think it's better to kind of have that quality over that quantity. But once again, it's still something I'm testing. But I think that's going to be, because everybody's got something free right now. Like it's all these auto DM tweets of free this, free that, free that. Like I think the way people are going to be able to stand out more is just trying to add some kind of paid like barrier or something like that, where it's like, wow, I'm actually paying for something good. Like if people have been releasing all this value for free, like imagine if I pay $5 right now, like what I'm going to get. So I think things are going to start transitioning to that a little bit more. I also think that like obviously webinar funnels are a big thing, like the whole long process. And to me, I don't like them just because personally I've never sat through an entire webinar. I know some people that have, but like I literally, and everybody's attention spans are like shortening like rapidly.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't think webinars are going to last too much longer. And I'm trying like it's not like a lot of people do it where it's just like 3 training videos and they're each 10 to 20 minutes long. You send them to your, have people opt in, send it one day, and then they wait 24 hours to get the next one. So there's 3 of them, and then there's like a 4th, like essentially it's a VSL. It's like a 10-minute long thing. You're selling them on your program, something like that. So I've been testing that out a lot more as well, because to me, like I went through one of those funnels. I bought that like end product like instantly, because I was like, dude, this is so much value through 3 20-minute long trainings. Like imagine if I pay $600 for this course, like I'm going to learn so much. So I'm trying to test that angle a little bit more, because I think the attention spans of people are shortening. So an hour-long webinar that someone has to like put in their calendar, sit down for, actually show up, like I just think that's so unlikely. Whereas to just go to an on-demand video like once a day for 3 days, like that's so much lower barrier to entry. So I think I think things are going to be shortening to like those kind of offers more. And then like those little tripwire offers, I think are going to become like the new big thing in like the funnel space, I'd say.
Yeah, super interesting. I feel like there's honestly like an endless amount of things. Like everyone has their own methodology. Like, oh, mine's the best. But at the end of the day, like if you convert customers, with whatever you want to do, I feel like there's no right answer.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And that's what's kind of hard with like all the marketing stuff. Like you're trying to figure out the best thing, but everyone's got like their own best thing. It's like,
yeah, it can get exhausting to try to keep up, but I just want to transition quick, because I feel like we've been talking a lot about technical landing page, VS, like all this stuff. Hopefully anyone's still here got a lot of value, but I just want to go into more of the lifestyle side of things. Like when we went golfing last week with Dylan, and you were saying how you and your girlfriend are kind of, taking this year abroad and traveling all over the place. So talk about like what are your plans for this year in terms of traveling, and also how this, money life or internet money lifestyle lets you, travel as much as you want.
Yeah, I think everybody has like that mindset of like, oh, someday I'm just gonna be able to travel the world and do whatever I want. So like as our like lease was about to expire, we're like, well, we're not doing anything next year. Like we don't have anybody's wedding to go to. No one's graduating from whatever. So we don't really need to be around. So we decided to just like start booking Airbnbs and just see where the year took us. So we're starting here in Tampa and then going to Orlando. And then we have places booked in California until August. And then the plan is to go to Europe until like December. Haven't ironed that out, because that's like a lot of planning that I don't feel like doing right now, like 8 months in advance. But it's kind of just been nice to, like I feel, and this was my biggest month ever. And I drove here from Pennsylvania, which was like 1,200 miles or something stupid, or 2,000 miles, I think. I don't know.
Jeez.
It was like 16 hour drive. and that was like the first week of January. I lived at home for the first week, and then I've lived in Tampa for like the last 3 weeks. And it was like my biggest month. And I think it's just because like I've been able to separate myself from just being around people that require my attention is like kind of a bad way to put it. Like I still enjoy my friends from back home, and I still love talking to everybody, but it's kind of like, I don't know, a lot of mental energy goes in that kind of stuff. And even my family, like I'm an oldest sibling, so I have a younger brother, a younger sister, and there's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Like even when I'm at home, I'm like, oh, I got to go pick up my sister from soccer practice. Oh, I got to go do this, go get groceries.
It's not like a bad thing, but like when I go home for the holidays, it's like dinner with your grandparents, dinner with your family. Not bad at all, but I'm just, it can, distract you from getting a bunch of deep work done, which is understandable.
Yeah, it just piles up, and it's never a bad thing. It's always fun and enjoyable, but it's kind of hard to just like turn off that switch sometimes and be like, yeah, I definitely don't have a lot of work to do right now, and I'm definitely like enjoying sitting here at dinner doing nothing. Like sometimes it can be kind of hard to get through that stuff, but it is always fun, and I think being able to turn off that switch is important sometimes, and like just take time with family, do whatever. But yeah, like moving away kind of has just like separated me from that, and like okay, I literally am just gonna work all day, and then if I don't leave the apartment, like, oh well, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and I feel like when everything's not optimized and you're traveling and just your schedule's kind of messed up, it's almost like you're more productive because you're under a time crunch. You're like, oh, I have to get this done because we're driving to Florida tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, and even through college, I always felt my most productive when I had like practice that night, a test the next day, like all that stuff where it's really just a time crunch, and you're forced to be focused in those situations. So I feel like when you're traveling, and I mean, I'm going like places 6 weeks at a time, so it's not like I'm in too much of a time crunch. But it is a little bit more, there's more urgency to it because it's like, it is a little bit more expensive. It's not like too much more expensive. But I think there's like an added level of something there that kind of forces you to like dial in. And I mean, what else are you going to do? Like essentially I just go to the gym, go grocery shopping, or just like sit at home with my girlfriend or go out and do something random. Like we went to an open mic last night in Ybor City or whatever it's called. Ybor. Yeah,
Oh, no.
I've been here 3 weeks.
No, don't even worry about that place, man. It's okay if you don't pronounce it right.
Yeah.
We're just
open
lucky to
mic-
have you here after that. Seriously.
Open mic was literally like the size of this room. There was some people that were so bad it was like silent, like pin drop. It was painful. But then
Those people are kind of the best though, because everybody's looking around.
dude, yeah, and there's always this one chick that's like loudly laughing, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck is she doing?"
What you are definitely that person.
Yeah,
or something.
but there were some really interesting people, and as the night progressed, like less and less people were there. Weirder people were stepping up to do stuff, and it was getting like really painful. But there were some funny, random people, like funny ass people, and some people that like definitely just came off the street and just like wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Like this one dude was like, he hops on stage, and the first thing he says like, I never could have been a thug. And he's like, I've been too much of a bitch my whole life. My mom, he's like, my stepmom sat me aside one day and she said, Cameron, you're too much of a bitch. You ever heard of anybody on the street named Cameron? No, it's not a thing. And he's like, I really tried to be a thug. Like I really wanted to be. And it wasn't until like one day I was driving with my friends. There was 4 people in the car and our car got shot up. And he's like, true story, true story. Everyone just got silent. And he's like, and after 5 minutes, I was the only one still crying. He's like, that's when I knew I really couldn't be a thug. And I was like, oh my God.
This sounds like a person who was just on the street in Ybor who just wanted to vent.
It might have, and I think he got the most laughs out of anybody that night because it was like, what the fuck? Like,
Dude, I love stand-up comedy. It's
Yeah,
just like
it is funny.
everybody's so present. Like even if people are bad, everybody's collectively getting a little bit more drunk throughout the night. I don't know, it's just a great time.
It is fun. I think there should be like a Klein Ascension stand-up comedy event or something. That'd be
my God,
like
we'd have some
amazing.
Hell no, I'd have to be hammered to get up there, bro.
Dude,
No
there might be
chance.
like a shot minimum to get in the room or something. Like that'd be fun though.
That would be a good
There's
time.
some guy in
Open mic
Austin
at
on
the
Twitter
next
that
event.
does open mics. His name's like Adam
Really?
Kamal or something. Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, that's cool.
Dude, one question I have too, like talking about lifestyle stuff and doing things outside of business is like I've seen on your Twitter, I think you did like a 10-mile race and then you like climb like a mountain for like 9 hours or something. Like talk about that.
Yeah. So the 10-mile race, I used to run in like middle school because I'm tall and skinny, so like that's what you do. But like the race, my mom had just signed up. Like my brother and my sister was like, "Oh yeah, I signed you guys up for this 10-mile race, the Rocky Run." in like 2 months. And I was like, oh, cool. That sounds awesome. And I had like all these knee problems and stuff. Like I have a trainer right now to help me like fix my knee from like a soccer injury 2 years ago. So it was like I barely even trained for it. So it was like, I felt like David Goggins just like dialing in because I had no conditioning whatsoever. And I was just like, my leg was hurting the entire time. In like mile 2 of that race, there was a giant gap in front of me. And I was like, why the fuck is there like in the race, it's pretty tight. So I was really surprised there was a gap in front of me. And then I like smelled something. And I was like, what is that smell? And I look up and the dude 20 feet in front of me, nobody in front of me except him, shit just down his leg. Mile 2. Like, it's not like we're that far into the race. I was like, dude, you can stop. Like, it's not that big of a deal. He was trucking. Dude, he was flying.
Dude, it's a competitive advantage.
My God.
You're not going anywhere
no
close to
one
him.
was near him. It smelled all down his. It was literally the second mile. I was just like, I ran by as fast as
Dude, I think it's just nerves. Like, whenever I get like nervous, I have to fucking
Yeah,
shit,
but
and
that
it's like,
bad?
we have to
Why?
run, we used to have to run a mile in middle school, and I was like a chubby kid, so I get nervous because I was like scared of how tired I was about to be, and like every time I'm like, why do I have to poop every time I do this like this mile?
Dude, that was like my day. Like every day we had to run the mile. I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready. Because I like played soccer growing up, skinny, tall. Like it was literally made for me. But yeah, like the 10-mile race was essentially just like a thing I did for my mom, and they couldn't walk for like a week afterwards.
Thanks,
and then,
Mom.
Yeah, right. Dude, I was kind of mad because I was like trying to focus on playing soccer in like this one league I was in, but it was. I'm glad I did it. I'm probably just never gonna.
Were you you're a defender? You got to be a defender.
Yeah.
You're a midfielder.
Yeah,
okay.
defender.
I was gonna say.
Or defensive mid, depends on the day.
Definitely. Who's a big? You like Fellaini on Belgium?
I have been compared to Fellaini before. Yeah.
Did you used to have bigger hair?
Yeah, dude. I grew it out. I mean, even at the event was like one of the longest I ever had it. But I kind of just go until it gets too long and in my face, and then I kind of just buzz it pretty much. Haven't really found like my style that I'm committing to. I'm like 23. It doesn't matter yet.
Yes.
But yeah, the race was kind of just like a spur of the moment thing, and then I just tweeted about it because like trying to be more personal in the personal brand side of things to connect to more people. But then the mountain was when I was in New Zealand, and we got that email saying like we literally had to leave in like a week. So I booked my flight, and I said to all my friends that I live with, I was like, yo, I've been like my background on my laptop has been this mountain, and it happened to be in New Zealand. I was like, well, I'm going there, so I might as well go see it. And I was like, yo, I have a week left. Like, I'm going to go to this mountain. And the one guy from Belgium, he was always like really committed to doing like everything. So he's like, why don't we just climb it? And I was like, well, that's kind of stupid. Like I looked it up and people are like dying every year thinking they can climb it and then they can't. He's like, well, let's just try it. And I was like, all right. So it was like 4 of us that went and actually tried to do it. And I was in like jeans and I had a backpack with like 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and like a giant thing of water and was not prepared at all. And people were passing us on like going up and they're like, yeah, you should probably turn around. Like, are you like they were asking us like, did you check the wind speeds? And we're like, not really. So they were telling us to turn around and because they said people die like thinking they can climb it all the time. And there was a section that was so like slippery, like the rocks just kept falling that like if you were to slide, you weren't gonna like die. Like you wouldn't just keep falling, but you'd probably slide for like 20 feet if you were going to. And my shoes were just so worn down that I couldn't climb up. So I was like literally on my stomach, like trying to climb up the mountain and like not make the rocks just like come down and stuff like that. So there was at some points it was a little crazy, but we started at like 4 a.m. It was sunrise at like 7, so that was like really cool because we were above the clouds. And then we got to the peak at like 11, so it was like a 7 hours to get to the top. And when we got, so it's an active volcano. It's not an active volcano. It's a volcano, but it hasn't like been active. So the top is just like ice. So it's like when you're down and you're starting, it's 70 degrees, and then when you get to the top, it's like 0 degrees.
Oh shit.
So that kind of sucked because like I just had like a windbreaker on essentially. So we got to the top and we were just like freezing for like 10 minutes, and we're like, all right, yeah, let's go back down. But when we got to the top, there was a bunch of people up there, and some guy from Sweden, he's like, I've climbed this mountain like 8 times, and this is like the like clearest it's ever been. Like usually it's surrounded by clouds and stuff, and like I could take a video and you could see the ground and like the coast and stuff. It was so cool. And like I have a picture of me like eating a peanut butter jelly. Like
3 PBJs and a windbreaker. Huberman types are.
it was literally like 2 triple deckers of like in this Tupperware, and that's all I had.
Yeah, hiking's fun, man. I did it for the first time last year in Banff, Canada, and it's just beautiful. It's way harder than you'd expect, though.
Yeah.
Still, I'd rather do something like that than run 10 miles behind the guy with
Yeah,
the Hershey
dude.
squirts.
Yeah, that was that was an experience. And I always tell people about that race because that was like the only exciting part of that race. Like, oh yeah, I ran 10 miles and this dude shit himself a mile too. But yeah, like hiking is so much fun, and it took us like 4 hours to get back down, and like my legs were like shot afterwards, but like there was just like such an energy of like, wow, we actually like did that.
Yeah, you're not going to find that in Florida. Are you hitting any of the hiking spots out in Cali?
Yeah, so like one of the places we got, like one of them's in Long Beach, and then one's like closer to like Salt Lake. So we want to like go to Salt Lake around, and there's a bunch of trails around there and stuff. But we'll have our car, and we're planning on like driving around a lot.
from Florida?
Yeah, it's like 2,500 miles in like a day and 21 hours.
Oh my god.
But we
Should make
budgeted
some
like
stops along the way.
yeah, we budgeted like 2 weeks for it, and I have like a bunch of friends in between where I could stop somewhere, or get a hotel or something. But I've kind of never been to like many different states before, like pretty much East Coast, and then I flew out to LA like one time. So I've kind of been like wanting to see more stuff, and I figured like, what better year to do it than the year I'm literally doing nothing else other than that. So we literally just like our car is just packed full with stuff like on the way down. Like like I felt how much heavier it weighed because we had like 8 bins in there. You couldn't see out of the back, and it's essentially just like all of our clothes and then whatever work stuff we need, which isn't like too much stuff.
Does your girlfriend do online business, or what is she involved in?
Yeah, so right now she has like 2 Instagram accounts with like 30,000 followers that she's trying to monetize a little bit more. I've been trying to help her like get into like the digital creator, like that kind of stuff, because to me it's still like such an easy market to like jump in and make a course doing whatever. Like, so we're trying to figure out like exactly what she's good at to like make a course, do something like that. So she's doing a lot of sewing projects. She's more like creative than I am, so she's more on that side of things. And I'd even thought about like hiring her, like having her help out with my stuff. But I've heard so many horror stories of people like hiring the girlfriend, hiring family to do this and stuff, that I've been trying to shy away from it.
She hit up Oliver Canteen. Him and his wife are like partners on there.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think he does like something with online courses and info products, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been wanting to try and explore something like that, but my dream goal is for her to just like create a course on something or become known for something so that I can like market everything for it. So then we're kind of like
Massive
working together.
rev share deal.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, better be massive. Yeah, so like that's kind of like my goal, but obviously like I'm not going to decide her entire life. So she's kind of been focusing on doing that, and obviously I have a decent amount of experience doing that kind of stuff, so I've been trying to give her pointers and direct her to do certain things. But yeah, she's always kind of wanted to do like her own business kind of stuff, but just, I mean, I think the hardest part is really just finding what you want to do. And it took me 2 years to kind of like figure out exactly what I wanted to do. So it's always like a hard process, I feel like.
I'm interested to hear your perspective of like our event, right? Because obviously last October we threw our first ever in-person event for Client Ascension down here in Tampa. That was kind of just like a random idea that we had at the cigar bar one night. We're like, we got to do an event, get a bunch of people for Money Twitter down here, because I just feel like there hasn't been like a congregation of people from the online world in person. So kind of talk about like, what was your perspective on it when you heard about the event? What was like the trigger for you to say like, I'm going to go? And then what was the experience like?
Yeah, so when I heard about it, I was like, yeah, it sounds cool. Like I never met anybody, I don't think, in person on Twitter before up until that point. So I'd always wanted to do that, but I was kind of in a state where I was like, okay, I don't want to do trips until like the end of the year, like go anywhere, because I really want to just focus on what I'm doing now. But then I kind of looked at it as like a way to connect with people and talk with people and make connections, all that kind of stuff. So I ended up like pulling the trigger, and I'd never been to Tampa before, so it was kind of cool to see the area. And as soon as I went home, I even told my girlfriend, I was like, I definitely want to move there at some point. And now I'm here like 3 months later. But it was just so surreal just seeing like people in person. And like, I don't know, even like as soon as I got to the one place on like the Friday night, I saw Daniel, and he looks over at me. He's like, Logan landing pages, and I was like, oh, okay, need to change my username. But it was just always so cool, like talking with these people online, but then actually meeting them in person and being able to talk with them there. So to that extent, it was cool. But then the fact that there was just so much energy, like back home, I think everybody has home friends or you kind of grow up in the system of like get a 9 to 5, do this, do that, do that. So that's what all my friends were doing. And it's not that it's boring because like I always thought it'd be cool to like be involved in a company like that, but I just like couldn't connect with it on the way that they could. So I've never felt like I belonged in that kind of sense. So then going to an event like this, it was just cool to see everybody like meeting random people that do crazy things and make a ton of money. Like it kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, I can really progress doing this, and connecting with these people is fun, and they're actually all like nice people too. Like, so that was like an eye-opening thing. And to me, like the biggest thing was like the energy of everything. Like I even sent an email out to my list the other, like I think today actually, going over like the importance behind like the energy behind things, and how last year I spent more in coaching than like I'd made the previous year essentially. And like the biggest thing for me was the energy of being surrounded by people that are talking about, like even in the wins category of Client Ascension, like people are always posting different things, and I'm like, fuck, like I need to post something in there soon. Like I want to be able to post something in there soon. It kind of like motivates you and keeps you in the loop with like doing all that kind of stuff and staying involved and posting content and staying consistent, because if you drop off, people are going to notice.
Yeah.
Like you're almost like giving yourself no excuses to like quit essentially. Like you're going all in and doing this. So to me, that was kind of the way, like by joining the group and committing to Client Ascension was kind of like the way of me saying like, okay, I'm no longer a freelancer. Like I want to become a business. I want to like do this full time. I want to connect with people and make deals and like do all that stuff. And but like the biggest thing from the event was just all that energy, like from people, seeing people and be like, yo, I've talked to you for like the last 2 years, but I've never like seen you in person before. Like it's kind of cool to do that. And even like Cold Email Wizard was like one of the first people on Twitter when I was there, and we were both like at 1,000 followers. And that was back when he was still using like exclamation points and being like excited for people. And now it's just like, dude, why are you poor and stuff. Like the progression has just been insane. Because
100%
he had empathy
now.
back then.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
he had a lot of like before he didn't have the brand. Like he had to like connect with people and be nice and stuff like that. So it's kind of just funny seeing that he's just like realized that he's like a force in the space and is just thrown all out the window and stuff, just because he can. Like it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna connect to those people anyway. But before it was like growing a brand. It's like, oh, I need to actually like talk to people and like respond to people and actually give them good advice. And now it's like, dude, what are you doing? So it's just funny to see the transition of that stuff. But it was just so cool to see people in person, and then be able to be in a community where like talking with each other and like throwing around ideas and stuff like that is just so regular, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just felt normal, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Which is, yeah, the energy was insane, dude. And
Yeah.
I've heard stories from a lot of people that were at the event of like partnering up with some of the other guys or hiring some of the other guys. Like I know the Default Kings were down here. They run a coaching program, and they hired David to help with sales. They hired one of the guys from Australia to actually do sales for their company. And
That's
it's just
awesome.
like, I feel like there's a lot of power in bringing people with like that mindset together.
Yeah. And I think something like you said, something like that was always missing, especially from our group. Like everybody's on Twitter is very like committed to what they're doing, and like 100% in and doing things and like whatever they can do to progress and stuff. So like, I think someone literally just needed to host the event, and people were just going to sign up and go for it. So it's cool that you guys did it, and I got connected with you guys.
Yeah, it's so refreshing to put yourself in the competitive environment again. I feel like you probably excel in that because you played sports and everything. But like for your example, like back home, everybody was getting 9 to 5s. If everybody's applying to jobs, like you're eventually going to apply to a job, and you're going to get it as well. Like you're just not going to be the only person that's not doing it. That's why finding that community, whether it's in person at an event, online in a group like Client Ascension, is so important. Because when you're surrounded by people that are all doing the same shit, it's so much easier to wake up and actually get the work done. Where if you're the only one doing it from like your at-home group, it's super, super difficult because you just feel like you're on an island the whole time.
Yeah, you feel very isolated. And even like, I mean, especially when people are telling you like, this probably isn't gonna work. Like, you probably shouldn't do this, or you need to get a part. Like my mom was like, you get a part-time job, please. Like work at Walmart again. I worked at Walmart for like a winter or something. She's like, please work at Walmart again while you're doing this stuff. And I was like, but yeah, like I was always kind of missing like that community aspect. And even when I was at school and applying for those environmental science jobs, still it was like, I felt like I was only doing it because everyone else was. It's like, dude, I applied to like 8 jobs this week. It's like, whoa. It's like, I don't want to do that. Like, there was a career fair. It was like, yo, you going? And I was like, no, I don't really enjoy this stuff. Like,
Career fairs was just like, here's my resume. Like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. Like, oh my god, I hated that shit, dude.
my friends
Like, who can stroke this guy's ego the most?
dude, exactly. And that's all it was. It was like very like LinkedIn, like in person.
It's so funny because now the kids I graduated with are the ones going back as recruiters, and I'm like, I used to like look up to this guy. Now it's like my friend that I've just like seen in so many stupid
Dude,
situations.
it's crazy to see the way people progress and stuff like that. It's like, oh, the popular kid like literally is like reaching out to people on LinkedIn, like, hey, do you know anybody that has a job? Like, I'm looking for. It's like, dude, like you bullied me for 2 years, and now, now you're looking for a job.
It's kind of funny how like the narrative shifted from like who throws the best frat parties and shit like that to like now you actually have to, you know. There's a new pecking order of success, and it's not just like who has the sickest parties, you know?
Yeah, it's just crazy, like the way stuff goes, and even like with the career fair and stuff. Like my friends, they went to an event for like extra credit. Like it was, oh, you get 5 points extra credit if you go to this event. And they were so bored. They're like, oh, let's get high before we go. So they went, and it turned out to be like essentially like a network event where they had to meet like all these people and shake hands. So they walked in, and they just said like their eyes just opened up. They're like, fuck, what are we gonna do? And they had to be there for like an hour, and they were sending me like text messages like, yo, can you come pick us up? We're like, we need to get out of here. But it was always that stuff. Like it's just boring, and like no one wants to actually do it, but you feel like you have to do it to progress, and like.
It's just such a rat race, though. Like I remember going to a career fair, and I was doing finance at the time. Switched to marketing because that was the easiest way to graduate.
Yeah.
With a business degree, but it's like everybody's going to like this investment firm, or like if you're an accountant, you're just sucking up to the person at the Big Four, and then like you just walk in, you realize like you're just gonna give the job to your nephew. Like why am I even here?
Why am I trying right now?
Yeah.
It's very fake.
It is. And you like are required to do like a level of fake.
I feel like once someone gets the job too, like the LinkedIn post is always the same. Like,
oh my god,
grateful to announce that I've accepted the position at XYZ company.
Yeah,
so grateful for all my professors that got me here. Like excited to see where my career takes me. It's like the same.
And then all of their friends are like the very specific.
Congrats.
Dude, amazing opportunity for you. Excited for you. Like, congrats, man. It's like,
not to like 9 to 5 bash, but everybody's becoming just a straight up NPC. Like if you went into ChatGPT. And we're like, hey, write me a message, which is me announcing that I'm grateful to accept the position at this company. That's the exact message.
I want to get back on LinkedIn and just like shit post and just post the wildest stuff and see what happens.
I
feel like it's just so stale on LinkedIn.
It would stand out. I'm planning on actually doing that like next month. Like because I think it would stand out because everybody's so like mundane and just like.
Like every year when my anniversary comes up when I started at Knowledge X, it's like 100 messages like happy anniversry. Like,
it's like,
I feel like I'm in like a dystopia. Like what is this?
It's just it's a wasteland.
Going back to the network, this is something that I always think about, which is super cool. Like you mentioned, you're driving across country to California. At this point, we could stop in almost every state and just find like an online business homie to stay with.
I'm going to Cali tomorrow. I tweeted I'm going to LA tomorrow. Who's there? And I got like 5 people. Like, yo, we got a link. I'm like,
that's
dude, this
so
is
cool.
Sick.
Is that something that like you plan on doing when you're out, just like meeting other people from online business and just like doubling down on the in-person relationship since you kind of got, I guess, like somewhat of a taste since you went to the event?
Yeah, I have some clients, like even people I've talked to before, past clients and stuff. I have a lot of people in like the Midwest and even on West Coast I've just never been to see and stuff. So I plan on at least stopping by and getting like lunch with them or something. But I met a dude on Twitter like actually probably like 12 months ago now. Once again, 30 followers, random profile picture. He's the founder of a company. It's called, dude, I don't remember what it's called. It's like What's something. I don't know. It was literally Google before Google. It was the first search engine ever.
Oh, wow.
He started it, and it ended up getting bought out by like Yahoo or Google or something like that. But they drove it up to, I mean, it was the highest grossing internet company. It was the highest grossing internet company to ever reach like a certain percentage or a certain milestone or something like that. He ran it up to like however much, 800 million or something like that. He was like the co-founder in it. Randomly reached out to me on Twitter and was just like, I'd love to work with you on something, because I had mentioned something about revenue share. And he's from Tampa. He literally lives in like Hyde Park right now. I met up with him on Friday and had breakfast with him. But we've been talking for the past 12 months, and
we have to connect with this guy. That'd be sick to have him on here.
I think you've talked with him. He said he's talked with you before. His name's Courtney. You follow? I don't know if you follow him. One of you guys followed him though, because whenever I clicked his profile to DM him, I saw it. But he literally just will send out random DMs and be like, what are you doing right now? Something like that. Because he's just trying to connect, because he was kind of like us before like we were alive. Like he told me, he's like, I made a video in 1983 talking about the electrical entrepreneur. He said one day you're going to be able to sell things like over the internet or like over the air.
Have to get this guy on. What the heck?
So like
I gotta see
he said that, and in 1983, so like everyone's like, yeah, okay. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that look like and stuff? And now it's actually happening. So we've been talking for like the past 12 months on like a project, and he's been working on it, and then I'm going to become like an affiliate for him and run like funnels and ads to it. But it was just cool, like being able to meet up with someone in person that I just met, and like is actually like I make however much a month, and he's made like however much a year. Like, it's insane the amount of money he's made. And I could just meet him because I have 50,000 followers on Twitter, and he like views me as an authority in some aspect. So I think to that extent, it's cool to like see those kind of people.
Super cool.
That stuff's funny too, because like you talked earlier about how like your parents and people back home are like, oh, don't do that, that's dangerous, that's risky, like with starting a business. Like, it's the same thing with meeting people on the internet. It's like, oh, don't go meet that guy, he might like kill you or something. Like, how do you,
exactly.
like, how do you know you're not gonna die?
How do you know he's his profile picture? He's not catfishing you. It is crazy. And like, I don't know, there's always going to be those people that are kind of supportive, but like really just hesitant of you like trying those things. And but like meeting people online, I've yet to have a bad experience so far. Everyone's been very nice, and it's
Twitter especially, man. Everyone's super cool on Twitter, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. I think anybody that has like some kind of audience on Twitter is there for mostly the right reasons. Like, I've yet to see anybody with like a big account. I mean, actually, there's like a couple people that I know that are like say they make this much money and they don't make this much money, and they're essentially culting people into like making money online, and it's bad. But for the most part, I think most
Pretty
people
genuine,
yeah. I think everyone's there to just actually make connections and see what you can do together.
Super dope. One question we like to ask to kind of wrap things up is like, you obviously found your way into entrepreneurship, having success, traveling the country this year, doing, online business, which is super dope. Connecting with other entrepreneurs. Like, that's a place that probably like 4 or 5 years ago, like you would have been ecstatic to be in.
Yeah.
Right. And so think about people that are in that position now, 5 years before you're having this success. Like, I guess really what I'm trying to ask is like, what would you say to your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, so I think I'm trying not to give like basic advice here, because I feel like the basic advice is always like, learn a high income skill, post about it, connect with people, do all this stuff. But I think it's still really early on in like building an audience on platforms, and like being able to take advantage of like going viral once and then literally just like recycling that into something. So I think honestly just committing to something, and it doesn't have to be something you're passionate about. Like, you want to find something that you can do for a little bit of time, but it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to envision a career out of it. Like, I never envisioned a career out of copywriting. Yeah. Like, to me, it was cool that I could make money by writing words, but I never looked at it as like, oh yeah, I'm literally going to like retire as a copywriter. You know what I mean? So it's more of just like taking that first step, because it kind of just leads you down a rabbit hole of like, oh, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. Met this person, this is a good opportunity. Like, the only reason I ever got into funnels is just because someone had mentioned to me that like ClickFunnels was the way to go, like making landing pages and doing that kind of stuff, because all the big people did it. Yeah. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to learn. And I like read every Russell Brunson's book. I read all that stuff. So it was more about just like committing to one idea for like maybe 90 days, 60 days or something, and becoming the best you can at that. And then trying to maybe get clients or like put your work out there where you could possibly make money from that, or do something, at least see the results of what you're doing so that you know it's either working or not working. And then kind of just progressing that from that and seeing what you could branch off with. Like, now you have this skill, what could you pair that with to like come up with a good offer? Or what could you pair that with to like actually entice people to pay you and to help grow their business or do something like that? So I think it's important to pair stuff, but I think the first step is always going to be getting that first skill down and really just surrounding yourself with people in that skill. And then like, I think growing an audience, like just tweeting about what you learn is such an easy thing. And that's literally what I started. And I mean, that's kind of why I've grown so slow, is because I never really did anything until like last year, essentially. So I was just tweeting about like knowledge that I'm learning and what's working with like the one client I have or something like that. So I think it's always good to build an audience because you're going to make those connections and stuff, but really just getting that one thing down so that you can like progress from that and bounce off to other things and grow and learn what you actually like and want to do.
Yeah. Build a skill set and then document the journey.
Yeah. I don't think you can go wrong with that at all. Like even the people that like take pictures of themselves for 8 years in a row and you just like see the compilation of them, like their face moving and their beard grows or whatever like that. Like that was just a commitment to do something for a long term. And like they got 1 million views on YouTube. Whether they're going to, I don't know, they're not going to make like, oh, how to make a long-term video. Like they're probably not going to do that, but it's just the fact that they could commit to something so long-term. And I think that's what's important with like learning an online skill is like, okay, I'm doing this to possibly progress in like this or this or this, and this is my long-term goal, and I want to commit to doing this, because otherwise, if you can't commit to it, then it's going to drop off after a month or two, because people are going to put you down, all this stuff, and a lot of obstacles that are going to come in your way. So you just have to realize that your thing is going to be the way to get you to where you want to be, and just commit to it then.
Great anecdote to leave it off. So the way we always wrap up is, are we doing a lightning round for this one or?
No.
Nah,
Not ready for
we
that.
were scheming. We were scheming with our content guy about how to get some new content in the door. But the way we typically leave it off is just going over, how can someone reach out to you, learn more about your journey, follow your tweets, work with you, and just stay in touch with you.
Yeah. So my Twitter's Lofted Learning. Might change to Logan Storti soon, but for now it's Lofted Learning. I plan on tweeting there for the long term, and then like next month I plan to go like multi-platform and start posting on a bunch of different stuff. But for now, I'm always going to be posting on Twitter, and my account is private as of now, but that's just for the algorithm. And then you'll get in my ecosystem, and I'll email you and stuff like that. But DM me if you have any questions or specific things you want to work on, because I'm always open to new stuff.
Dope.
Dope.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate you coming on, bro.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
Congrats
thanks for
on the
having me,
record
guys.
month.
It's been a lot of fun.